Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I wanted to talk about one of the biggest things that I implemented in my life or I started embodying that has helped me and propelled me in this human experience. And that is, I stopped chasing happiness. When I started my spiritual journey, I used to think that if I did all these things, like I read all the books, I listened to all the podcasts, I got a job that I wanted, I was working out, I was doing all of these things, that it would ultimately lead me to a state of happiness, right? And when I say a state of happiness is like where like I could experience no pain whatsoever or could experience no discomfort whatsoever, and my life will just be happy and smooth and rainbows and butterflies and sunshine. And I think there's a lot of us that think that we think that maybe a certain destination is going to give us that long lasting happiness where we don't experience contrast. There's a lot of us that have that false belief, right? And what happens is that if you have that self-belief, you're going to be in a constant chase of chasing happiness, right? When you get there, you're going to be okay because you're going to be happy. You're no longer going to experience pain and experience discomfort. When you get there, because eventually you do get there, eventually you do manifest the things that you want, eventually you do implement the things you want that then get you to that stage. When you arrive there, you're happy for 1 month, you're happy for 2 months, 6 months, and then you go back to baseline. You go back to feeling the same way that you used to feel, and you ask yourself like, okay, I got the thing that I wanted. Why am I not happy? Why did this not bring me the state of happiness that I thought it was going to bring me? And then your ego finds something else to attach to. You find that thing and then you chase it. And then you get there, you realize that you're the same person, right? So it becomes a constant chase, always chasing something, thinking that whatever you're chasing is going to bring you that state of being of happiness, until you actually realize that happiness is not a state of being, right? What is actually a state of being is peace and freedom that you cultivate. So, and when I say that, I mean like when you have the peace and freedom, whatever situation you're in, whether it's happy or sad, you have the peace and freedom within, right? You're going to navigate that much more gracefully, right? You don't have to be smiling all the time. You don't have to be happy all the time, but you have peace and you have freedom within. You realize that actually that's much more important than whatever external thing is going to bring you, right? And what is more beautiful than that, where you can withstand anything that you're presented with, right? And stay calm and stay regulated and stay peaceful and stay free, right? That actually frees you from suffering, right? And when I say suffering, I mean the mind story, right? The mind story that you tell yourself when you're not smiling or happy, right? When you're presented with something in front of you that you don't prefer, maybe you start asking like, why am I experiencing this pain? Why am I always experiencing this? I shouldn't be experiencing this. You're rejecting whatever is presented in front of you because you think that you're not supposed to be experiencing that. You think that you are supposed to be happy and smiling all the time, right? So when the discomfort comes, when somebody triggers you, when you get hurt, or when something happens that disappoints you, you feel like this is an injustice to you, right? Because why? Like, why are you the one who's being presented with all of these things? Why are you the one who's having to go through this thing, right? And that means that you're actually resisting life, because life has contrast. You have light and dark, you have sunshine, you have rain. There's always contrast. So if you're experiencing happiness and whatever, on the other side of it, there's sadness, and that's part of it. There's life, there's death. All of this make life whole, right? So if there's happiness, there's always going to be sadness. Once you understand that, you stop resisting, right? And once you stop resisting, all the suffering ceases, because you realize that if sadness comes, that is just part of life, and you just let it be, and you surrender to the sadness, because you are a human after all, right? If you're human after all, sadness is part of it. In fact, my huge realization came, I want to say like towards the end of 2024 is when it was like a click in my head. I was listening to this song as I was walking, and it finally clicked that I needed to accept pain as part of my human experience. Because before that, I used to just want to escape pain. I wanted to get out of here and go over there. Because whenever pain would come, I would be like, oh my gosh, like this is just so uncomfortable. I don't want to be here. I want to get out of here and go there where like there's no pain anymore. I'm not glorifying pain by saying that you need to take that as your identity. But what I'm saying is that when pain comes, it comes because it needs to be felt and released. And once you feel it and release it, it's going to leave your body, right? Back to the story when it finally clicked in my head. I was walking and I was listening to this song by, I think it's Placebo. Anyone that listens to like rock or alternative rock would know this. There's a song by Placebo that I think it's called Bright Lights. There's a part in Bright Lights that says, because a hurt that hurts is a hurt that works. And I just thought that was so beautiful. I thought it was so beautifully put, because when you're feeling sadness and your heart is hurting, it means that it's working, right? You are human with a human hurt, right? So if your heart is experiencing sadness and pain, it's working, right? And you don't need to escape that, right? It just tells you that you're in touch with your humanity. And there's something so beautiful about that, right? And I feel like when it finally clicked that I did not need to escape this thing that I was so afraid of, then I freed myself, right? Because I reframed it using the lyrics that, oh, when I'm experiencing the sadness and I'm experiencing discomfort and pain, it means that my heart is functioning well, the way it's supposed to function as a human, for a human hurt, right? So I finally accepted that, okay, this is just part of the experience, right? The same way that I accept happiness, I also need to accept sadness and pain and feel it and release it. I feel like I had a major transformation since that day, because the way that I started to move through life actually freed me from all the suffering. When you reject the pain, you suppress it, you don't want to experience it, it actually gets stuck in your body. It does not move out of your body. If you don't feel that pain and release it, it's ultimately going to lead to suffering. When you don't experience and release it, what happens is that you go to the mind and you find a story to explain why you're experiencing this. And some of the questions that we often ask, and I know that a lot of people can relate to this, is, why am I experiencing this? Why me, right? Why am I always going through sadness? Why am I always going through all of these experiences that I don't desire, right? And you find a story, because your mind loves a story in order to explain whatever is happening to you, even though your body is telling you that, hey, like you need to pay attention to me, right? Your body is already telling you what you need to do, but you don't want to do that. You want the mind to explain, or the mind to make sense of what is happening. Even though the body is already telling you, you want the mind to make sense of it. So you find a story and you maybe tell yourself like, okay, I'm always experiencing this because I'm not worthy, I'm not beautiful, I'm not any of the things, right? You tell yourself in order for you to make sense of what's happening in your body, why that pain is happening to you, right? And that story is what actually prolongs your suffering, because immediately you attach a story to whatever sensation, whatever experience that's happening to you, you're going to be stuck in a loop of suffering until you actually release whatever is happening to you. So it's so important for you to actually allow that experience to happen without resistance. Once you realize how much this will free you, you would start to embrace this more and more. Because I'm telling you, this has freed me so much. Like, I actually no longer suffer. Literally, I no longer suffer. I still experience pain. I still get hurt. I still get triggered. I still experience discomfort, but I no longer suffer. I no longer go to the mind and ask it, like, why am I being triggered? The only way that I use my mind is to maybe engage myself like in a conversation with a part of me that's hurt. or that is triggered. So I just go and feel the sensation in my body and actually use my mind as a tool to be like, okay, hey, you part of me that's hurt. You know, what story are you attaching to this hurt? What story are you telling yourself? Why do you think like you're afraid of this thing? That is the only time that I engage my mind, not to attach to the story, but to kind of make that part of me have a voice, right? So that when it has a voice, then it feels like it's been heard, right? And that way I'm able to integrate all the parts of me. But I no longer suffer by identifying with the story that the mind is trying to tell. Because when I get triggered, when I get hurt, I just experience that and release it and then let it go, right? I no longer go to my head. And that has allowed me to move through difficult moments, through discomfort, through painful moments with so much ease and so much grace, right? I'm not saying that it's the easiest thing, right? And at first it's actually hard to sit through whatever discomfort, sit through whatever pain is happening. But the more you do it, the more you expand your capacity to be able to hold any discomfort within you. And once you expand your capacity, then you're no longer afraid of any pain, painful moments, or any triggers, because you know you have the capacity to hold space for any part of you that's experiencing that discomfort and experiencing that pain, right? And you realize that the more you do this inner work, the more peace and freedom you cultivate within. So in any given moment, you're peaceful, you're free, you're calm, you're regulated, and you're no longer chasing that goalpost. You're no longer chasing to be over there. You're no longer needing to escape any given moment to go over there. You just accept the present moment and you go within, you handle it however, you've been practicing, and you stay in that state. You just handle whatever you're presented with, and deal with it and release it. And then you wait for the next moment to come and you do the same thing. So you're just focused on now, you're focused on today. You're not thinking about over there, because you no longer need to escape to go over there, because right here is okay, right? Because you've made it okay. You've expanded the capacity to hold space for whatever is happening right here, right? You can see how much free you are. So that's what I mean by happiness is not a state of being, right? What is a state of being is the peace and freedom that you feel within. That's what I mean when I say that. As long as you're in this human experience, you're going to experience contrast. You're going to experience sadness. You're going to experience happiness. You're going to experience discomfort. You're going to experience comfort, right? And you need to have the capacity to hold both and not think that one is better than the other, right? When I say that, I don't mean that you can't have preference. We all have preference for comfort over discomfort. We have preference for happiness over sadness, right? But preference and acceptance are different things, right? You can hold space for contrast, but still prefer one thing over another. When you start operating from the paradigm of, I can hold space for contrast, I can hold space for all of these things because they are all part of life, even though, yes, you prefer comfort over discomfort, even though, yes, you prefer happiness over sadness, you're not rejecting sadness. You still accept it, and you just allow yourself to feel the sadness because you are a human after all. So learning to understand that, like, it's so important to hold space for the contrast will free you from a lot of suffering and from a lot of resistance. I think once you start embracing this and operating from this paradigm, you realize how much freedom you have and how much peace you have. And then it just occurs to you that nothing external would significantly impact your state of being. Like, let's say your baseline is here. Nothing is going to take you from here to here, right? Even if like the best thing ever happens to you, it's just going to take you from here to here, right? And if maybe like something quote unquote bad happens that you really don't prefer, it's not going to take you from here to here. It's really going to take you from here to here, where you're quickly able to come back to the baseline, because you've cultivated that sense of peace and that sense of freedom within. And when you get to that place, you've truly freed yourself from like the conditioning of having to chase something in order to feel something, the conditioning of wanting to have something in order for you to be okay, right? You really free yourself from all of those things because you understand that I don't need to chase after something external. What is important is for me to work on my state of being and how I feel on a day-to-day basis, and still have goals, right? I'm not saying that you can't have goals. I'm saying that like the primary way would be an internal state of being. And then as you do that, you still have things that you want for yourself, right? And what a better way to, to have something that you desire, but at the same time, you have the state of being to be able to hold that thing beautifully without like any fear of losing it, without any fear of like you not being worthy or not being deserving of it, right? Because you just have that state of being that is okay with anything, whether it comes or not, right? Then you're not attached to any external outcome. I think that is such a beautiful state of being to operate from. And it really does take a lot of work to get there, and it takes a lot of commitment to get there. But once you get there, you realize that all the work you did was so worth it because you're free and you are at peace. And what a beautiful state of being to operate from. I hope this video inspires you, and if this is something that you are navigating and working through, I hope it changes your perspective on how you relate to pain and how you relate to discomfort and things that come to you on a day-to-day basis. If you found this video helpful or inspirational, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel for more content like this.